I studied Plato's Republic probably 20 years ago. So when I talk about justice and like I talk about the Philosopher King and what it means to be ariste sate, which it says is breakfast, what it means to be breakfast, the daughter's breakfast. But it actually isn't said daughter, it's come, which we know gom is come because gymnast, which I'll prove to you in a second that like gymnastics is like is it's working out, like it's calisthenics pretty much. But he's calling his daughter virtuous, like in like a war like sense, like she is a virtuous king, like, and then it goes on to say like people that don't get the name of Ìzeus, like they'll find out like who are you compared to me, and like that's but then it's talking about the daughter, so it's like how is like a virtuous daughter like a warrior? What? So I've been reading about Plato's Republic on Wikipedia, and Plato talks first to Cephalus, which who knows what Cephalus is? It sounds like Peter, doesn't Cephas? Like it's, but it's syphilis. Like one thing I realized yesterday is that Zen is Sen. So like we made Sen Zeus, and it's because Sen is such a bullshit concept. It's such a freaking Pharisee thing, and like Christians are like obsessed with sin. Like sin's what separates you. We need to figure out sin, and then like they like will never get sin because they can't get over the fact that like they're learning from like idiots. Because like you figure it out if you read the Bible enough. Those people are stupid. Those people are primitive. So the best possible society has like a really good education. Is it for men or is it for women also? Clearly, like a woman needs the same education as a man. But let's start off first when he talks about like what what it's like getting old, and like I really did like this because I'm a person that would want to tell myself that. And he says old age brings us profound repose and freedom from this and other passions. When appetites have abated and their force is diminished, the description of Sophocles is perfectly realized. So when we talk about Sophocles, and we know who Sophocles is, like didn't he write the Trojan Women? Like Sophocles is a playwright. Here we see that sophrosune is one of the three or one of the four virtues, along with bravery, justice, and practical wisdom. So, what does that mean? Like, for me, sophrosune has to do with like calming the passions. Like it has to do with self-control. It has to do with self-mastery. So like when he's talking about like when you get old, suddenly you will become sophrosone. But when you're young, like you eat all the time, like you're craving food, like you naturally want to eat more. But when you're old, like you don't want as much. Like you're not as horny. Like you don't need sex as much. Like you become sophrosone, and like the oldest person is the most possible virtuous, and like a young man cannot fully perfect the soul. Like you must be old, I think, in order to perfect the soul. So this question comes up: what is Dikaiosune? And we've talked about Dikaio and Dakaiu and like this idea of justice, and like it's not what's right, it's Dikaiu. And Cephalus says to give each what is owned, and Polemarchus says to give each what is appropriate to him, and Thrasymachus says the advantage of the stronger, like whoever is strong decides what is just and what's not. Socrates says like if you go and like give someone a gun that you take, my dad had Alzheimer's and I took his gun away. Like that guy couldn't open a door. That guy had no idea what he was doing. And like, would it be just to take his gun away? Clearly it is. Like, then would it be just to give him what's appropriate to him? A lot of the time, I think like that's like what we want to be just. Like the Bible says, like take care of the elders and widows. So like take care of the old people and like a person without a husband who like needs help that much in that society, especially. Like take care of the weakest people. Take care of the orphans. Like is the Bible. And so like is that just? I think that we'd all agree that we want the advantage of the stronger to say that is what is just. Socrates disagrees with Thrasymachus because he says like it's not just to do what the rulers say. Like, but like, does that mean that like the society's justice is not defined by the rulers? I think that it's pretty clear that our definition of justice is defined by the Jewish people in charge of the United States and the Christian church, who's very confused about what their religion says. So Socrates tells Thrasymachus that like crafts aim at the good of their object, and therefore to rule is for the benefit of the ruled and not the ruler. So like this was a very important concept in like the development of America. Everyone read the Republic of Plato. Everyone read Aristotle. Like everyone read John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, and who were English philosophers. Because like what happened? There was a group of people that spoke English, and those people broke off from the Jewish people earliest. Like they were the first people to change their language. Those were the people that did not care. Those are the people that decided we're gonna call sin Zen. Like you want to talk about blasphemy? We're gonna call Zeus. Our word for sin is Zeus in English. Like those are the people that are not Greek. They're that Jewish, and like they were the very first first not Jews that were Jews, and that's why English is like the closest to ancient Egyptian. So this idea of like what a philosopher king is, it comes down it's developed like through like Plato's attempting to figure out like what is the best, most ideal city. Like how can we have the best possible city state? Because he's in Athens, that is their country, and but he wasn't in Athens when he was talking about this. I don't know where he was. He says the stories that ascribe evil to the gods or portray the afterlife as bad are untrue and should not be taught. And he said he's all about the cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Which temperance would be the sophrosone, and justice would be the dikaiosune. Which like we're seeing like him talking about like his kids being just. I'm talking about Ìzeus like when he comes back to his kids, and he's a good father. So he talks to his daughter and he's like, you're like a warrior virtuous person. So like I said in the middle paragraph, Socrates asserts that both male and female guardians be given the same education, that all wives and children be shared, and that they be prohibited from owning private property, to that guardians will not become possessive and keep their focus on the good of the city. So like he's trying to figure out like how to treat the philosopher kings. One thing that's not mentioned in this article is like he believes that like part of a child's education should be watching people kill each other. Like he believes like that you should take your kid on horseback. Like this kid's gonna be a philosopher king. He needs to go on horseback and watch the people kill each other. We're gonna go watch war because he needs to get used to like blood and gore. And I think that Alexander the Great was trained that way. I think that like I've been trained to know like that's the sort of thing that can happen. Like when you're gonna be a king, like you need to be prepared to see blood and stuff like that. Because do I think that there's a possibility that at some point in my life I'll see someone bleeding in front of me? I've already seen someone bleeding in front of me. So here there's the notion of a noble lie, which is Gideon pseudos. Like, and when I see that, I'm going, Gideon. Like, wait, I've been translating Gideon wrong. Like, okay, that's noble. Like, I'm so confused. Like, I need to like know this. So I just want to point out like what he says about the ideal city. He says human reproduction ought to be regulated by the state, and all offspring should be ignorant of their actual biological parents. Like he believes like in that much of a communist society, like that much. Which like are we kind of like that? It's a lot easier to send someone other than like me. Like if I'm your dad, like you're probably not gonna like talk to me if I have a plan for you. But that doesn't mean that I'm not your dad. But like it is good like when Socrates is like being a parent to your kid, like it's like it's beneficial for your society, like when you have more of like a communal structure. And like our society very is not like that nowadays. So Socrates believes that like the natural progress of society is that each like generation becomes inferior and more inferior and more inferior, to the point that you've got the Roman Empire in charge of the United States somehow, when like the early United States was like that against the Roman Empire. You should hear the way that Teddy Roosevelt talked about the Levites and like the Catholic Church. Like there's like it's like he's like kind of like, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with you being Catholic, I guess. Do I agree with everything Socrates taught? Clearly I don't, which I guess it's Plato's teaching. Like, but do I agree that like we should have a philosopher king? You need someone that can like explain who you are. You need someone that actually knows who they are, because everyone else just goes, Israel's the best, God says so. They know it's the advantage of the stronger that they appreciate, and you want my strength, it's better. Like my justice is better.